Because I don't know what happened on my end. Somehow it just faded out.
Make sure everything's on
I'm
Ustream.io.
restarting now. I
Restream
just
when we're
started it. There we go, and it's saying the connecting thing.
It's
done.
there now. I see it. Thank you.
All right.
When we have a malfunction like that, we need to shut up right then and correct it, not go on for minutes. Okay?
I know. That's what I was. Anyhow, go ahead, Dave.
So anyway, we have a major problem with the corporation of the United States. They have no authority over anybody in this country. It's from what I comprehend of it, it is a French corporation. And nobody seems to know who the three people were who formed the corporation, the charter, the bond, and all the other crap that goes with the corporation. And they cannot make us corporations individual within themselves. Because where is our business license? Where's our charter? Where's our bond? And all that other good stuff that corporations have to become corporations.
Mm-hmm.
And since they took away our lawful money in 33 bankruptcy, thanks to Roosevelt and his band of thieves in Congress, stole the United States Treasury, thus HJR 192. We have a major, major problem as to what is the lawful currency of this nation. A note is a dead instrument. It's an IOU. I never agreed to participate in a fraud scheme, a counterfeiting ring, which is what the Federal Reserve note is. It's backed by absolutely nothing. And I'm getting a little bit ticked off with the IRS, who seem to think that they can counterfeit a debt when there is no money to pay it. What a bunch of incompetent asses.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to ramble on here until we get into the lady who has her right to travel information, because I am personally going to enjoy that conversation.
So are you ready to turn the floor over?
I'm ready to turn it over.
Okay, let's go ahead and unmute her.
Hi.
The floor is yours, Jackie.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Wonderful.
Well, where shall I start? What would you guys like to hear about?
Well, start on what
like to
like the video you did with Jerry Day. I think that it's a good way that you were explaining how the system was working when you were comprehending how to put it together.
Okay. Well, I first got into this quite some time ago. Probably around 2003 was the time that I actually read the vehicle code and kind of didn't, discovered that it didn't say what I was told it said. So,
Can you talk a little closer to the phone? We can barely hear you.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
A little better, yeah.
How about this?
Perfect.
There you go.
Okay. So, yeah, around 2003, I read the code and discovered it didn't say what I thought it was supposed to say. And annoyingly enough, I had not highlighted it that time, so I had to read it a second time so I could highlight, the paragraphs that I'm like, why didn't I save that? So, but basically what I discovered was it didn't apply to me. And I was really excited because I didn't have the money to renew my license. So I wrote to there was about 6 people I wrote to, the DMV, the commissioner, the director of the DMV, the commissioner of the Highway Patrol, Secretary of State, the governor, DOT, the insurance commissioner, and I basically closed them out with an administrative process. And I actually got a nice letter back from the Attorney General that said, we have nothing in our office to do with traffic. So I was like, great, that's great. You know, none of these things are a problem. No one had a problem with what I was doing. So I promptly, you know, created my own little, actually I called it a card of introduction. You know, I created my own documents, and I traveled around with those for a couple of years until I started to have a problem with a police officer who, you know, couldn't work out why I wasn't in the system, found some old tickets and kind of dragged me back into the system. So I kind of learned a lot throughout all of this. I ended up with a bail of almost $1 million. It was $920,000 for driving without a license. And anyway, so I had a lot of adventures with that and managed to get rid of all that stuff. And I discovered a lot. Anyway, so what I discovered was I was not the person under the code. My car was not engaged in a regulated activity. And that's a really important thing to understand. Your property is not being taxed as such. Even your home is not the property that's being taxed. It's the use. It's a use tax. Somehow you've put it into commerce. So with a car, you register it as a commercial property, and home, I would say, you know, certainly in California, we have something called a preliminary change of title. And on that preliminary change of title is 4 horrible questions that people usually get wrong, you know, including, you know, the location or property address, you know, all these things we put incorrectly. We incorrectly, you know, give them an incorrect statement, which puts us into their, you know, realm of commercial activity. And so it becomes taxable. So the other thing that I discovered, because then, you know, you have this kind of big question that if I'm not the person under the codes and if I'm not engaged in a regulated activity, then how the hell am I having these problems? So in the California Vehicle Code at 17459 and 17460, we have these sections that basically say, and I'm going to paraphrase, the acceptance by a resident of this state of a driver's license or of a certificate of title is the consent of the person. So you can see right there, just by applying, you're giving your consent that service of summons may be made on you in, you know, any action, you know, arising out of the use of the car or the driver's license. So that's where I realized that that was my problem. You know, I walked into the DMV. I asked them for an application form. I filled it out. And, you know, it's like the sovereign decreeing the vehicle code as my law and asking them to please screw me over with it. So I undid all that. And then the other thing that I discovered, which I think is also really important, and Oregon has almost identical, actually yours is actually a little more exciting, is the in-state, you know, the only place that these revenue agents are allowed to operate is in this state or in the state. And generally what that means, it's the territory within the state of California or within the state of Oregon that is basically owned by or ceded to the United States of America. So if you're not on their property, which I think one of you mentioned earlier, that's the big thing. All these rules are really for the smooth running of the government. They're not our rules. That was a huge awakening. And the only reason I was being bound by them is because I, you know, begged them to please enforce this code upon me. And that's kind of where it's at. So I don't know if you guys have any questions.
I'd like to add one thing quickly to your statement. Is the point that we're putting together, and this is the one thing that you have to realize. When you do your rights, you have to notify these agencies, the police department, everybody else, so that way, and you put in your fee agreements and stuff like that with it too.
I do have one of those too.
Go ahead.
Yes. So yeah, presuming that you are in the system, then you would. There's several ways. If you're in California, it's pretty simple. There's a form DL-142. That is a cancellation of the driver's license. Very simple. They may have it in Oregon. I don't know if they do. But if they don't, then you can do the same sort of closeout I did, which is, something to the effect of an administrative process. Mine was really in depth because there was no one before me that had kind of, I wasn't using anybody else's. I just made it up as I went along from what I was reading. And so it was a lot more thorough than it really needed to be. It took me a lot longer. Like it took me 4 to 6 months to kind of close them out when I could have done it a lot quicker. It was more like a learning curve for me. They already knew.
Could I read
sure.
code again?
The form for California is a DL-142, and that's a cancellation for the driver's license.
Thank you.
Now, when you do that, you can pick any reason you want to pick. Basically, you have to give them a reason. It's a two-part form on one page. They're identical. Top and bottom is identical. You fill out the information twice. You fill it out in accordance with the information that's on your driver's license. I know a lot of people have, should I put my name in upper and lowercase, or should I do that? How should I write this? Write it. You're talking about canceling the driver's license. So give the information that you currently have in the manner that you have it on your driver's license. And then it'll ask for a reason for cancellation. You can be creative. I don't need it anymore. I don't think I need it. Whatever it is, it's really up to you. This is fraud. I've heard many different reasons. It's really, personal, how you want to write it down. And then you tear that page in half, and you're going to take both halves to a DMV. And this is really important. You want to get back at least the file stamped copy of the one you've taken. So there's 2 of them, 2 halves. They are identical. You're going to give them one, and you're going to have them file stamp the second one. That's really important. You must try and leave that office with proof. Another thing that you can do is you can have them input it right away and give you a printout. Some places allow you to do that. So you can actually get, what's it called, Ken? Can you remember? There's actually a printout from the DMV. It's like there's like a DL11 or something. But anyway, you can get a printout that, sometimes the courts will send you for one. And all you want is to show that it's been canceled. There is also a letter that you can ask for. It's called an order of cancellation. That is a letter from the state that actually shows that they've received your order of cancellation. That is also very important. One of you mentioned presumptions earlier. You get stopped and you used to have a driver's license, you've canceled it, and you don't have any of the proofs that I've just mentioned, then it's presumed that you forgot to renew your driver's license, and they will suspend it. They'll give you a ticket, and they'll harass you about it. So it's, they don't want to let you go. And as far as they're concerned, it's a little bit like if I rented you a room, or I leased you a house. Let's say I leased you a house for a year and a half. You stay beyond the year and a half, your lease then reverts to a month by month. It's the same thing with a driver's license and registration. It's a lease. So after the expiration date, it's presumed that you're using it in the capacity in which you had it in the first place, which is under a commercial license or commercial registration. So anyway, that's kind of how that works.
So
it's important.
Go ahead. You're driving without a license because you're just driving on the continuance.
Say that again. Sorry, it's really hard to hear you.
I say, so you're not really driving without a license or a suspended license because you've actually renewing it month by month based on usage.
Technically, I would say yes, but in different states, they have different. California likes to keep other states, like we've discovered, like South Dakota, for instance, if you don't renew your registration, it just ends. And if you want to then, renew it, there's no past due penalty. You just create a new one, and that's it. They'll send you new registration plates and everything. California, for 7 years, will keep you in their books and expect you to pay 7 years of back registration if you, even if you haven't been driving it. So, it really depends state to state on that. But once you have that documentation, you don't have to worry of that presumption, the important thing.
Well, what I did on my expired 30-day tag was I wrote right to travel, put it on 3-inch letters across the bottom of the plate, and I've just been moving it from one car to the next.
Okay, and that works for you?
I've been to Arizona, Texas.
Yeah. Not for hire.
Yeah. Gee, I got stopped for speeding. Asked the officer what his emergency was, and we had quite a conversation over that. Finally, he just gave up and said, "Get out of my face." We get the same thing, exactly the same thing. You're not in my system. That was his quote. You are not. Would you please provide your address so the court can mail you a summons? And I said, no, I don't have my address with me. Mm-hmm. Get out of my face.
Yeah, we found it was kind of interesting. On Form REG 227 here, it actually said, and that is a form for duplicate title, and it says on it that you're consenting that service of summons may be made on you as the new owner. So it's kind of interesting that, they need that address, and your right to privacy, you have to give it to them. So,
well, actually, I have, under Hill versus Hinkle, I have the right to conduct my business in my own way without
Absolutely.
government. It's a violation of your civil rights.
Yeah, I'm not a civil rights advocate. I don't believe in civil rights. Those came, I think our rights were given to us way before then, or actually not given to us. They're endowed by the Creator and not given to us by a state.
Well, that's true, but I mean, you want to rub it in. You want to rub their law in their nose when possible.
Right, and what I would like to add, remember, civil rights is under the 14th Amendment under British law.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I spend a lot of time saying I'm not the person under the code, and then like a 1983, the very first thing out of the first line is, every person. So, I'm not that person. So that suit's not my suit. I have done one before, and I talked myself out of it in the pleadings. I realized the mistake I was making and backed out of it. But yes, I know some people really like those. It's just not my thing. But usually, if you think of an invidiously discriminatory animus, so a reason why, if you notice something within the state, then a 1983 may be worthwhile. But on the whole, you have to plead that you're, black and some other kind of minority. Which I've done too. You only have to plead it. You don't actually have to be it. So, and your fiction can be any color you want it to be. So, you can exercise those things. But yeah, it's not something I'm really keen on, civil rights. But, so, once you get that documentation, once you have the order of cancellation, then that presumption goes away. And as far as you guys mentioned insurance, insurance is not really necessary, but for those people who like to have it, you can get what's called a driver policy. You can get a policy where you can drive any car but your own. And they're very cheap. They're about $250 a year, and you just don't have any cars in your name. No vehicles should ever be in your name if you're driving around without a license. They should be in a trust association or no plates, or however you want to do it. And if you want insurance, then, that's a possibility, is to have that type of insurance. There is another name for it. Hold on a second. Ken, what's the name for it's called a driver's, that's right, a name non-owner policy. That's what they generally call it. And it's about, $250, sometimes less. I have one couple that managed to get it for $120 a year, and they can drive any car except any ones that they own, which they don't own any. So that suits them well. But once you've done that, you guys sound like you have it. I mean, you just tell the officer, just like you said. I like the phrase that you're a little out of your jurisdiction, aren't you? Because once he's not on land or on the territory that's owned by or ceded to the United States, he's way out of his jurisdiction. He's only incidentally patrolling those areas. He has the CHP has primary jurisdiction only on Highway 1 in California. The rest of it is assumed powers. So, they're assuming and incidentally operating on our right of way. So
when I was stopped in by the New Mexico Highway Patrol, I asked him for his business license and his description, which I never received. And I told him, I said, if you're going to write me a ticket, I want you to know my fee schedule is $100,000 an hour with a minimum 4 hours. And when you write me that ticket, I want the address for the Secretary of the Treasury of your state so that I can go cash it in.
Yes, absolutely.
Have a nice day, sir.
Yes. We get the same thing. Sure.
Since you said you didn't know if Oregon had it, it's called a Oregon Quit Driving Form. It is, the form number is 7206A. And that basically...
7206A? Okay, yes. Sorry.
Okay. Basically, it's just a form that says you're quitting driver's license.
There you go. Beautiful. So it's very simple. That's it. So there's one in Oregon. It's called a quit driver's license. So, and it's form 7206A. Okay, that's awesome. I don't know if any of you can find that there should be a law somewhere in there that basically, where you're giving consent that you're the agent for the service of process. And that tends to be, where they're coming in at. You've consented to receiving summons. If you that driver's license, you don't have that registration, there's no consent. But Oregon may be automatic. I don't know how you're, once you quit, if they try and stay like California does. So it may not exist.
Actually, if they wrote you a registration without your knowledge and consent, that's identity theft.
Absolutely. Yeah, California, I don't know if you heard on the video, but we've seen some very strange things. So let's say, like my partner and I, we both have children who are now grown. So when they were younger, they both, got tickets, let's say, with numbers that we don't know where they came from. They did not have licenses. They didn't have IDs. So these were numbers that were made up. Ken, my partner, his son, when he grew up and got a license, all those tickets or that one ticket he got came back to haunt him. My son, has not got a license. And each time he's had a ticket, it just disappears. The court, it never comes up. So he was arrested with like 3 people. The other 2 were on, or the other 3 were on calendar. He was not. And ultimately, their cases were all dismissed because as a joinder, they couldn't have it without all of them there. So obviously, he's become kind of a a good friend to hang around with. Everyone gets off. So it is kind of interesting, but we discovered they make up these numbers and they actually open up a file waiting for you to accept and consent. So, yeah, pretty crazy. Yes, but I don't think they do that in every state. I know California does.
Well, I'd like to add one thing. In the state of Oregon, what they have done to the kids in the state of Oregon is very, very frustrating because the kid gets a traveler's permission slip. When they turn 17, they automatically register them to vote.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's what the Democrats have done to keep you in the system.
Whoa.
They say, oh, well, you did this, you consented, because when you re-registered your new license at 18 years old, you consented as a voter to be a debtor.
Interesting. So, yeah, I heard you talking about immigration. I'm from England. And in 2000, I did take on naturalization. And it was kind of interesting. There was about 10,000 of us at the district court in Los Angeles. It was a flag waving ceremony. It was kind of sickening, but, kind of interesting. Most people in there were actually military. There was a lot of military immigrants. And the second you step out of the court, you have this row of people outside getting you to sign up to vote. That's the very first thing you hit when you leave the immigration ceremony or whatever they call it. So it's, they won't bring in the new blood and have them already voting and all the rest of it. So that's kind of weird.
The thing of it is, that is fraud in the inducement because they fail to disclose the intent.
Yes.
That's a violation. You bear fides, ultimate truth in contract law. And anytime you put your autograph on a piece of paper, that is a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And where on the voter registration does it say contract?
Yes, nowhere. And yes.
Therefore, you have fraud in the inducement.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole ceremony, actually, having been here and done some studies, the whole ceremony is technically fraudulent. The original layer was simply, a couple of people in the area that, would bring you in. You'd go into a regular court. It would be state. I believe up until 1950-something, there was a choice of whether you wanted to be a state citizen or a U.S. citizen.
Right.
I want to be a sovereign, the hell a citizen.
Yeah, understood, but we're coming in, so, and I definitely understand, you would want to, you guys talk about bloodline, you would want to have people here who owe allegiance to here. It is kind of important, it's an important factor.
That's under the Immigration Act. When they take an oath to this country, they're taking that oath of allegiance to the Constitution and leaving their beliefs in their home if they have a different belief.
Absolutely. That's the way it's supposed to be. So, yes, absolutely. The allegiance. And, it's kind of messed up the way that they do it now. It's not quite, it's really kind of cheesy. You're there with 10,000 other people. It was a lot, I don't know how often they do it, but and like I say, there's a lot of military personnel there. It's very impersonal. You haven't got one guy where you're literally, swearing an oath and it's in front of him and he sees you. It's just like, you hear a couple of people singing a song about, God bless America, and then there's a flag waving thing, and that's, you say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then, like I say, they get you to vote as you go out. That's the big thing is, all right, you're in now. Snap to vote. So yeah, it's.
Yeah, and by law,
not.
They can't vote until they've been here X number of years anyway.
10 years originally thought it was.
Really?
Yep.
Yes.
Interesting. That is it. Well, I assume that's why they want to bring people in. If you think about it, the non-voters are now like the majority. I think there was 47 or 48% of us this time.
No, what they're doing by bringing people in, foreigners into this country, they want to give them birth certificates.
Oh yeah.
You can get the bond and on them the certificate of live birth and the $1.2 million that's worth to back the Federal Reserve note.
Oh, that's definitely that's definitely part of it, and I have that, and it's kind of interesting, you become, you're on one balance sheet of one country, and then you move to the country become, another statistic on another balance sheet. Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
That's the fraud scheme they're pulling against all the immigration people because these people don't realize they created a bond on them.
No.
They were never told. Just like the federal corporation, we were never told they were forming a federal corporation. So that's high treason against the Constitution.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, it's very interesting. So I did listen to your stuff, what you had to say in the beginning, and definitely templates would be good. I think once people kind of get the idea, and definitely in Oregon, it's all right there. You have a guy. I found something on Fam Guardian that has all the laws that were related to Oregon. And I'm sure you guys have them. If not, I can send them to you. It's pretty much the same thing. In fact, yours are even better. Yours are even better. Yours is a commercial. It comes up like Class A commercial driver license, Class B commercial driver license, Class C commercial driver license. Yours is very clear.
Yeah. I mean, in Ohio, that's the way they have them too, Class A, B, C, and D. So,
yeah, but here it says, it specifies they're all commercial.
It is. It is all commercial.
Yeah, it's all commercial. Well, in California, it says it in a kind of backwards fashion. You have to kind of work out what did that say. But in Oregon, it's very clear.
You have to remember that the government, quote, can only regulate that which they create.
Absolutely.
And the Supreme Court ruled that man and woman are sovereign,
yes,
blood flowing, where corporations and government are black ink on white paper and have no bloodline.
Yes, absolutely.
They cannot be sovereign, so how can they have sovereign immunity when it doesn't exist?
Absolutely
Therefore,
agree.
you can sue every damn one of them.
Yes, yes. Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time. I don't know if you guys have any other questions, but that's, we actually, from the video, it was really cool. We got a guy called up, and he does database web design. So he's going to help us with a little database. So when, people here in California specifically right now, but when they get a ticket, they can go into the system, input the information, and then, if necessary, we all contact either the court or whether it's, a city or whatever it is, and, blast them with complaints. This is our land. That's not your land. Your territory's over there. Here's ours. You're encroaching on our property, and you need to cease and desist the encroachment, or whatever it is, but something to that effect.
Well, what I do is I approach the public and elected servants, and I say, okay, show me the allodial title to the land you claim is yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, shoot. I want to see it in the original Hebrew language, signed by God.
Yeah, we've been, I've been dealing with the commission, the state commission, lands commission it is, or state lands commission, and they're supposed to hold all the records of land that is ceded from California to the United States, and I'm kind of getting the runaround on exactly where those points are. So, but the
IRS only have jurisdiction within the federal zone, which is like Washington, D.C., New York City, New York, the Holden territories belonging to the United States. That's why it's called the Internal Revenue Code, not the U.S. Code. U.S. Code, if you notice, there's a U.S. Code and there is a IRS code.
Absolutely, and they are revenuing. That's what they're doing, changing the venue. Yep, that's...
Yeah. If you are a sovereign American, the only court that has jurisdiction over you is a constitutional court with a constitutional judge with a constitutional oath of office and bond.
Have you managed to find any?
Other than that, they have nothing over you.
Sure, but have you found any judges like that? I mean, I looked in California. I contacted the Secretary of State, and I asked them if there was anybody in the state with a requisite oath, and there wasn't one. The guy was totally
sure
shocked.
That the U.S. Court of Claims is a constitutional court.
Okay.
And the one thing I like to add is that people don't comprehend this reality is when Carter ran for office, he was the one who allowed the Cubans to come in and get Social Security numbers and register them to vote for him.
Well,
yes,
that's
it's pretty
the same crap
crazy.
Obama played and Clinton played. Bring in the immigrants. Welcome to the democracy. Oh, that's an act of treason. This is a republic. Our states are guaranteed a Republican form of government. If you're telling me I have a democracy, that's an act of treason.
Absolutely. Yep. Yes.
You want to kiss the ass of the Queen? Go to England.
Take your Bible with you, please.
Definitely, we don't need your imported religion.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I think, didn't Reagan make the Bible law here?
No, he made it...
Well, basically, in a sense, he did, and that's
yeah, 1984.
A Christian. He made it a Christian nation.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, something like that.
And
yeah.
we're not.
Yeah, kind of interesting.
Well, he did that because that was part of his plea agreement that he did for the immigration to allow the 1 million to be protected, and that was only at that point, and any immigration had to come through proper channels after that.
Isn't that interesting how they do that? They just wiggle the law however they want. Well, excuse me, it's the legal system, so you can wiggle it any way you want.
Yes.
But it don't pertain to us. If they're practicing
Absolutely.
legal, it don't pertain to we the people, the men and women of this nation.
Absolutely. So since having that one little piece of paperwork, the order has made quite a bit of difference for us traveling around.
Hey,
now
you there?
Yeah.
We have a question, and I want to open up the floor to people ask you questions.
Okay.
And, I want to open up this one because a gentleman just called me as soon as he comes back on. You better get back on the line here. He was asking you to repeat the form numbers in California again.
Okay.
And
Q&A session has started.
unmute him. I guess I don't have the control. Oh, there we go. Okay, Mike, ask your question.
Hi, I'm in California too, and I wanted to know if you knew which form to use to claim your MCO MSI title history search from the DMV. Hello?
Jackie, you there?
Did they mute Jackie?
Can you hear me?
Oh, now we can hear you. Okay, go ahead, Jackie. Ask your question again, Mike, and then we'll open up the floor to questions for it too.
We have sent one in, but I can't remember the form off the top of my head for the MCO. It's not the 11 or something where you're asking for copies of documents. You're asking for requesting copies of documents on file.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it is. And I remember when I called the DMV, they weren't very helpful, but ultimately I did find somebody, and it's like where you're asking for copies of records because they generally don't keep them and they throw them away, or that's what they claim. They burn them or do some other shit with them.
After 4 years, they destroy it.
Yeah, that's what they say. Yeah. Now, my partner here, Ken, he got his original, but what he did is he paid for his motorcycle with cash and then got the MCO. So, and it did make a difference. He never registered it and never had any problems. I did have somebody else who paid off his loan and then got sent the MCO. And then when he went to the DMV, he didn't know anything about this at the time, but he went to the DMV and the lady's like, "Are you sure you want to hand that over?" And then he's like, "Why?" And then, she said, "Well, no reason. I just want to make sure." And he goes, "Well, now that you've asked, no, I don't." So, but I can't remember off the top of my head what that one is. But it is requesting copies of documents.
I'll go. I have to be in Auburn tomorrow, so I'll stop by a dealership and ask them if they can help me. I already filled out the request for cancellation or surrender a driver's license. The
DL-142?
Yeah, you said the form out there, so I printed it out and filled it out to get ready for tomorrow.
Okay. So did you find it on Facebook or something?
No, I just did an internet search for DL-142.
No, but okay, because I was going to say, I'll have a look for what form it is, and, if you want to give me some way of contacting you or how I can get that information to you, I can,
I can give you my phone number.
Actually, Ed, why don't we get
Or so that way we don't put it on the line.
Oregon Tracker's website?
Yeah.
Not calls.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, just some way of contacting you, and then I'll have a look, because we all did that, and it's kind of crappy. It really doesn't make that much of a difference, but it is nice to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right then.
I'd like to also bring out this point to our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if you are a corporation, you must have a charter, a bond, a business license, and what's that other thing? Oh, gee, you have to actually have a product that you are producing for sale.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyhow, also too, let's go ahead and open on mic, everybody, so we get any other questions out here on this issue.
I made a Q&A, so anybody who's got a question for Jackie here, hit *61, and that'll put you in the lineup. I'm going to the next individual.
I have a question for Jackie. Jackie, were you born in the USA or outside the USA?
I was born in London, England.
Okay, so the process that you're talking about, when you are in the vehicle and you're behind the wheel in the USA, what do you show an officer if they ask for a driver's license? What do you show them?
I have. Yeah. I don't call it a vehicle. I like automobile, but car is fine or whatever not. But I actually have something called a functional equivalent. So I create my own ID, which just says who I am, and I only give that if it's necessary. I, haven't been stopped for quite a while. I have different types of plates. So I have one with no plates. I have one with my own plate. I have one with South Dakota plates, and we like South Dakota because South Dakota, you're not required to be a resident. And so I like to, if I have a car that I use a lot or that my kids use, then I like the out-of-state plate. And you can actually get an affidavit from them that says affidavit of non-resident, which is really nice, which says you're not a resident of any state. So that's kind of a nice little addition with South Dakota. So any documentation would usually be like my functional equivalent, and that's really it. When I did my own plate, I actually did an email with the DOT, and I told them, I have use of an automobile that is owned by a foreign trust that is recognized by the United States. What do I do with the plates? And I got a response back that said, take them to the nearest DMV. So that's what I did. And so I actually have a copy of that in my car. And that's really all the paperwork I have. We really don't have that problem of dealing with them anymore. So, and we carry the order of cancellation. That is the one thing that has been solved a lot of issues for us. Like before that, we come under the presumption. I've had a lot of arguments with cops that, they would say, you forgot to renew it. And I'd say, no, I canceled it. But once you have that piece of paper that says it's canceled, that was really helpful for us.
Okay, my last question is I'm in traffic right now.
Okay.
Could you go over the information about insurance companies that will sell you the ability, I guess, to travel, but not? Could you go over that information? Do you know the name of the insurance companies where you can do that? If you don't have the driver's license, do you remember saying something about that earlier today?
Yes, I did. Yeah, because for some people they really like to have that, and they feel safer with it, and and that's fine. We help people at all different levels, and AAA actually has one, although they've become a little bit aware of what we're doing, so they like to refer you to a supervisor. What's the name of the other insurance company that you used? Dairyland. There's one called Dairyland in Wisconsin. And they will, they're really cool there, actually. They'll find you what's called a name, no owner policy. Non-owner. Yeah, so it's on you It's not on the car. So let me emphasize with that. It means that your liability is handled if you hit somebody else. As far as your car is concerned, that would not be covered. So if you're looking for that type of insurance, you'd have to have coverage specifically for your car. And that I don't know much about. I'm sure they probably have it somewhere. You know, the more people that start to ask for these things, the more available these things will become. So we do have some trouble finding them sometimes, but, you know, we spend a lot of time looking so that, you know, certain people like, you know, they want insurance. So we found it. Or other than that, we use a bond. You know, there's a bond that you can use as well. It's basically a hold harmless, but then nobody is covered. You are in full liability, full responsibility, which is how we travel. So we're careful.
I have a question for the two of you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever read the ruling Right to Travel by the Supreme Court of the United States?
Probably a while back. Yeah.
That is current
Mm-hmm.
and is usable.
Yeah. Is there a particular part you want me to think about, or?
Well, I was just curious if you had ever read it.
Mm-hmm.
There is also a ruling of the Supreme Court that says you have the right to kill a police officer for unlawful arrest.
Absolutely.
And I have that
Yes.
in my documentation.
Yes.
Yeah, you always
So,
stuff in your instruments.
Sorry, say that again?
But you always want to put that stuff in your instruments, including your fee charges and impound charges and everything else. You want to put it in your instrument, and I did that with mine, and I filed that with the Secretary of State and the county clerk.
Yes, I have mine on file also. Yeah, and you know, you have to know how to enforce it. It's no good just putting it in there. You have to, you know, carry it with you or know how to enforce these things as well. You know, it's doing paperwork for other.
with me all the time.
Yeah, you know, but the thing is not everybody knows how to enforce a lot of these things. So I like to kind of make it as simple as possible. You know, some people are timid when they meet an officer.
Well, actually, what I did when I was stopped, I handed the officer the form, and I said, I need you to fill this out. Your badge
Yes,
number,
me too.
description, and your business card, and your law license, because you are practicing law here.
Yeah, that's funny because, I used to hand them a citation, a counter citation. And it had at the bottom of it, it was something about, you know, I treat everybody equally or something. You know, it was like, you know, had that little equal right shit at the bottom. It was pretty funny. Yeah, I treat everybody like this, you know. So it was pretty funny. But yeah.
But just, I mean, a lot of people aren't familiar with the ruling of the Supreme Court on right to travel, and that gives us the right to travel without all the nation's highways, the cities, the towns, the villages, any public highway without license, insurance, registration.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
By the way, if anybody is looking for $1 million coverage at a reasonable rate, I don't normally do this, but American Family will give you a $750,000, $1 million coverage.
Wow.
At a reasonable rate. So if you're interested in that kind of coverage to protect your butt, because you smack into a truckload of liquor, especially whiskey, you could actually create $1 million in damage or more. So you might want to think about that.
Yes, absolutely. The other thing that, you know, it's also kind of important is to make yourself unlienable. You know, basically if you secure all your assets in the right manner. I'm one of these ones that believes in own nothing, control everything. And a famous case would be Chappaquiddick, you know, with Kennedy. So, you know, he crashes into the pond, his girlfriend drowns, and technically, because the car was in a trust, all they could do was do that trust, and the car was the only property that was in that trust. So, if you're careful with the way you place things, and you shouldn't really have any problems. So, and that goes with IRS as well. If you don't own anything, you become unlienable and you become uncollectible. So that's kind of how we do it.
Are you referring to Sir Ted Kennedy?
Teddy Kennedy in Chappaquiddick. Yeah.
The Queen Mia knighted him Sir Ted Kennedy here in Congress.
Yeah.
Gee, where's that title of nobility when you need it?
Yes. So, getting the car, if you are going to have it registered somewhere, some people like to have registration, then, you'd want to not have it in your name if you're not going to have a driver's license. One requires you to have the other kind of thing. It doesn't matter. Once you have one, you've consented, and so, you'll be liable for something. So you need to have both of the things, either gone or in some other name. So to do this safely. In other words, you have to jump in with both feet.
Have we answered all the questions for that lady?
May I?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that because I've had issues with my vehicle. I've got the Attorney General for the child support telling me that they will not re-register my vehicle until I pay the child support.
Yeah.
And also, the other thing I was going to say or ask is that my driver's license was expired, and I tried to go pick up some medicine, and they told me I had to have a valid license to even get it. Even though, I'm old enough to get it, but they said I have to have a valid driver's license. How do you get around stuff like that?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question on the prosecutor. He's acting on hearsay evidence. He does not have first-hand knowledge of the facts. So therefore, he is giving, what do they call that, evidence, Ed? What's the word I'm looking for? Hearsay evidence in court is exactly what the prosecutor does, because he is taking all the information from reports of other people, and what he's trying to do is he's trying to pass his bill of attainder over to the court so the judge can serve it on you for payment. That's the fraud scheme they're running on you.
Here's a kind of an easy way of getting around them not allowing you to register your car. What you're going to go down there and you're going to register it into an entity, like an association or a trust. What state are you in?
I'm in Texas.
Texas. Okay, and now I don't see any problem with either one of those in Texas. So you think up a nice name that you like and that rings kind of, fanciful to you. For instance, I have a lien company that liens other people's cars so that if they get towed, I can go repossess them from the impound yard, and it's called Hold'em and Lien'em, and that's a nice Texas name, Hold'em and Lien'em. So anyway, that's a secured party for a lot of people's cars, and that way, if they get towed, I literally go repossess them. But anyway, so what you can do is you're gonna actually register that car, and that's if you want registration. I'm assuming that you do, that you're not ready to be driving around without a registered car. You don't want to risk it. So what you can do is you can go down there and you can register it into an entity like a trust or an association. By doing that, you simply, like when you normally sell a car, I know some people kind of have, difficulty understanding that. All you're doing is selling it to a trust or an association. So you come up with that name, you put that in there. Sometimes if you put it in a trust, they will want to see some sort of documentation, and they will require a trustee's name. If you do it in an association, the association itself can hold the title to the property. So you don't need to put your name on there. So I like associations for that purpose. So you can have like ABC Association. My son actually has BCP, which stands for Banana Cream Pudding, just, to show you the simplicity of a name. So, you put your car into, ABC Association, and you simply go down there and you register it like that. You do not need to show them ID. You do not need to show them proof of insurance generally, because it's not in your personal name. It's in an association. So it's a little different. You might want to do some research in your state as to what may happen with insurance. I don't know how the insurance laws are in Texas. But if you're interested, South Dakota is a wonderful place. As long as you have the title to your car, you can send it to South Dakota, get South Dakota plates. It's cheaper, it's easier, there's no smog requirements. You don't have to be a resident. I mean, it's just wonderful. I love it. So that's another option. The other thing is, if you get my email from these guys, you can contact me and I can help you do that. The idea is to help people start living. These people have us by the freaking balls. I've got people that can't go to work. Either they're getting leaned by IRS, got problems with driving. And the idea is to, help people get back on their feet so that they can start creating and doing some fun things. So I'm happy to help do that. So, you're welcome to contact me.
Well, here's a ruling. Here's a ruling from the United States Supreme Court. Congress, by legislation, cannot define income, since it cannot alter the Constitution from power to legislate, and within whose authority. So Congress, our legislative body, can't define income. Why are we paying individual income taxes?
Absolutely. We understand that there's all these laws that are written there, and we understand that we have some, we're not operating by those. We're operating on some other strange and, in the real world, not enforce those laws. If everything was perfect, they could do it. But, that I consider that are okay for now until we can kind of break down this system. But right now we need people, to be able to, survive without having to be forced to pay that child support. I mean, I actually have a lot of people that have that problem. They've had their licenses taken away for not paying child support. Well, how the hell are you supposed to go to work? It's ridiculous. These are real life situations, and we can quote Supreme Court laws, and I totally agree with it. But these people are not enforcing that or even listening to that. We have people that are crippled, that are unable to work or unable to drive to work. I'm going to say drive to work, although I mean travel to work. But, it's terrible. So
it's about wording.
Yes.
It is.
Yes, it is about wording. Wordsmithing, absolutely. Yes, I'm from England. Actually, I have a little story that I'll tell you guys, which is kind of comical. You go to the Old Bailey there, which is our most famous court. It's the criminal court in the middle of London, and it's been there for years. It has a dome, and it's a very beautiful building. And you have to imagine when you walk in there, it's kind of circular, and it's made of wood, and you have these high chairs with the three judges with, two with big black robes, one with, or red, I think they're red robes, bright red kind of robes, white wigs. They sit up there, and then you have the audience is also kind of up high, but not as high as the judges. And then you have the defendant and his attorney or his solicitor, barrister rather, that sits in a pit in the middle. And so when the judge talks, the room booms, and you can feel it shake, and you're all like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. And then when the defendant responds, he's like, and everyone's like, what did he say? What did he say? And the judge will be, speak up. So they put on quite
Put me on your level, idiot. In America,
yeah.
The judge is not the court.
Yeah, exactly. It's
That's
totally
true.
Different. Yeah, but it's all a show. And when you've been to England and you see that, and then you come here, I'm like, where's the show? What are you guys doing?
And you have to also be aware of the color of law fraud scheme they play on you.
Absolutely.
The Gold Fringe American flag is a martial law flag. That's under military regulation. So if that court is flying a gold fringe flag, that changes the jurisdiction of the court. So if this is an elected public servant operating in fraud under color of law, he can go to jail.
Mm-hmm. Yes, if only we had the enforcement.
If I may.
We'll get it.
Sure.
Go ahead, May. Actually, we had one May before you, Mike, I thought. So, all right, Mike, he didn't speak up, so go ahead, Mike.
I had a question. Whatever Dave just said, I had a question about that, but I forgot what he said now.
Color of law fraud?
What's
the
that?
color of law?
Color of law fraud?
No, you were talking about the flag.
Yeah, the gold fringe flag falls under military regulation. Dwight David Eisenhower Executive Order 10834, misuse of that flag carries a 1-year prison term.
So if I have the civil flag on my license plate, am I in the right or the wrong?
You're in the right.
I sent that to the CHP with an invoice.
Form of government.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
Republic.
Yeah, there is this other rule.
A republic. It's the only constitutional form government in the entire world that is a republic.
And we're the only ones in the world that has the rights. Remember, the Constitution gives people rights, not privileges. You sign for a privilege.
You look at Article 2.5 of the Constitution, which gives you your bloodline American. You are not a bloodline American until you have been here that long.
Technically,
you don't have rights until you are a bloodline American.
Mm-hmm.
You only have privileges.
Under treaty law, the British have free right of travel here forevermore.
Under what? Treaty law?
Yeah, there was a treaty that was signed, and it was something to do with west of the Rocky Mountains. I used to use that one when I first came here. It was pretty good and quite effective.
There's a thing called the 16th American Jurisprudence, second edition, section 177, that states, any law written in violation of this Constitution is never written, and no one is obligated to obey it.
To follow, absolutely. But treaties are up there. You know, I hear that what's his name, Brown, our governor, now is signing treaties.
Yeah, you cannot write a treaty in violation of another treaty, though. So when he's writing all those treaties, he better be careful he don't hang himself.
Well, we don't mind that.
Yeah, it's true. We want down with Brown.
Well, I'm just saying, we want to warn the gentleman that, hey, if you write a treaty in violation of another treaty, you committed treason against the Constitution. That's a hanging offense.
Sure. Going back to the flag thing, there is an international agreement or treaty or whatever it is. But anyway, there's an international understanding, we'll say, that somebody who flies no flag is an enemy of all states. So, that's, back to boating and maritime law. So, it is, I created my own flag for one of my flags. I have the old bear, the California Republic one on another one. But the original, the little bear.
Would you have a link to the flag stuff you're talking about, Jackie?
I probably would. Yeah, I can probably find it. Every year it gets harder to find. I should have something on my computer on it, but I did make. Okay.
I sent you
Mike,
a request.
For information too.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So whereabouts in California are you?
Standard American flag without anything on the top of it, like a spear, an eagle, all that. Just fly a standard American flag. So
one of the other things we did, we used the flag of peace, We went into court.
U.S. flag of peace is also a good one.
It's on my license plate.
Good. Well, here's a little story that, shows you kind of how powerful it was. We went to court 3 days in a row, and I'd made T-shirts with the peace flag on the shirts. And we went in, and it was pretty funny. They were really messing with this guy. He had several cases in 2 different courts, and they were kind of messing with him. Well, we had to go in 3 days in a row, and we kept wearing their shirts. Well, by the 4th day, they kind of stank, and we didn't wear them. We walk in there, they arrested him. So I ran back to the other place in Fontana, and I discovered that warrant had existed for 3 days. 3 days we've been going to court. They never arrested him. It was pretty funny too. We also gave an olive branch to the district attorney, and she kept waving it because she didn't know what to do with it. So she's holding it in her hand, and she kept waving the olive branch. And we were all like backing up. But anyway, some crazy things that we've done. But yeah, the peace flag was pretty good because it.
Well, I'm proud of you for taking a stand and sticking up for people. That is, that's wonderful.
Thank you. Yes, kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, you do. After a while, you go, yeah, I got him again.
yeah, it's kind of enjoyable. It's definitely, when we discovered that, we were decedents, that was the funny one. I don't know how many years ago that one was, but I went to court for somebody as the executor, and ultimately I agreed at some point that I would be the medium that would relay the message to the decedent, and it was really funny because it's in the record, that this big says. So all the DAs used to come and watch. So, yeah, it's pretty fun. Yep. Any other questions?
I guess that's what we got right now.
Okay, and just quickly, where is Mike in California? I'm in Southern California.
I'm in Grass Valley, California. I'm about an hour east of Sacramento.
Oh, okay. That's where my partner's from. He's from up that way. So, yeah.
I'm fighting a right to travel case. I was arrested for driving without a license a couple weeks ago, and one of the cops was talking about shooting me.
Right to travel by the Supreme Court. Throw that at them.
There's a California case law that driving without a license is a non-arrestable offense.
Great.
Yes.
Not even a misdemeanor.
I sent the CHP an invoice for $57,000 because I found a penal code that says that if you offer a settlement and they don't take it, and then you're offered a higher amount during a trial, that they're prosecuted.
Interesting.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do, huh?
My fee schedule is $100,000 an hour with a minimum 4 hours.
I just
and that's
saw
based on a court case.
Is it Trezevant versus Tampa?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
Absolutely. We just had an interesting case where, and it's just a small traffic case, but it's still the same. It doesn't make any difference. So we did discovery, and in the discovery we put in requests for admissions, and we got a letter back from risk management. We're not going to answer that shit. So we took that letter and put it back in the court and asked the court to admit the admissions, which he did. So we had 35 admissions admitted, and ultimately it wasn't dismissed. It was the defendant was found not guilty by the court.
I wonder why.
So, yeah, and so I would really look at that. The admissions are really, really powerful, and you can use things like under 260, for instance, under all those points that we've raised in California. You're not the person. You're not the you're not in a regulated activity. Mm-hmm. So all those things, and put them into admit that I am not. So you put it nice and clear and send that in. And when they don't respond because they won't, then you ask for those to be admitted.
Oh, another thing, the court will say, well, you can't mix federal law and state law together. Then you just tell them to refer to the environmental laws of the state.
Well, we have that in California. In California, we have requests for admissions. It's under the CCPs. Traffic is quasi-civil. They portray it as being criminal. It is not criminal. It's a quasi-civil action. So, civil discovery is allowed.
Very good.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, it is Any other questions?
Well, I like to bring up one point to all those that I'm printing out in Oregon, and I'll put it on the site too, after we put all the other structure together about how to put all this stuff to write your structure up. But if you go to Form 735-7206, that is actually the one to surrender your driving privileges back over to the state and claim your rights to travel.
There you go. Excellent.
And also,
Excellent.
you want to, before you go to court, and if you know your judge's name, or find out what his name is, find out if he's traded on Dun & Bradstreet, Wall Street, because that's a conflict of interest.
Absolutely. And also, Mike, did you cancel your driver's license, or you just let it lapse?
I just let it expire.
Okay, there's an O'Neill case. It's O'Neill, and I discussed it in that video. I don't know if you watched the video, but in the video, okay, I discussed at the end or somewhere near there. I don't know. I can't watch myself, so. But anyway, there's an O'Neill case. O'Neill versus the Department of Professional something or other. You'll see it. You can actually Google it. And in that, the guy had he let the license expire, and once it had expired, that was it. The court ruled that they had no right to come in. So
I'm going to do the surrender and cancellation on top of it too.
Yeah, it's a good idea to do that, but I would be careful because you're already in a situation. So what you have to show is first, if you're going to do that surrender, I would backdate it to the date that your license expired and write on there that was always your intent to not renew that license, because that's what you're looking at here. You're looking at intent.
Yeah, that's what the CHP arrested me for, because he asked me, he said, if I let you go to DMV and renew your license? And I said, absolutely not. So he said, okay, then I have to arrest you.
Yes, it's about intent. Yes. Yeah.
Emergency.
I didn't hear you, Dave.
I said, what is your emergency, officer? They come back with that threat. You just say, what's your emergency, officer?
Well, in the letter that I wrote to the commissioner, I mentioned that the officer denied what is it, substantive due process? He deprived the court of subject matter jurisdiction because he pulled me over from my plate, but only charged me for driving without a license. So, how did he create the probable cause if there's no breach of the peace?
He cannot be the injured party. Where's the injured party, officer?
Well, no, he's right. He had no right. You cannot tell if somebody has or does not have a license. It has to be incidental to the stop. In other words, he had to have committed some kind of crime that gave a probable cause to force the stop, and then he discovered it's really not investigatory, but at that time that he did not have a license. He can't just cite him for no license, because how did he discover that?
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah. And then they arrested me. Plus, they were threatening to shoot me.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. There was a guy. Do you know Rich Iverson?
No.
I don't know if you've ever heard of. Rich Iverson does have some really good stuff on that. So there's something called the People versus Sava. The People versus Sava. It's that's another pretty good case you probably want to look at.
People versus Sava, S-A-V-A?
Correct. People versus Sava. Yeah, and then Rich Iverson, he used to have 520.org, I think it was, section 520.org. I don't know how you find him. I'll see if I can find it, and I have your links. I'll send you his stuff. He has a lot of stuff on his website. But one of the great things about him is he actually sued a city before and won from risk management. The only thing is he's kind of expensive, so I really, I don't recommend him in that instance, but it would be really nice if he would share that information and help people, so they can make some money and then they can donate it to him.
Yeah.
It would be helpful. So,
it would.
But yes. If we started suing them every time they pick us up, then they would stop. So I think that's important.
It
is.
There's
two Facebook sites. One is Tax Fraud in America. If anybody wants to go and look at your rights under taxes. And if you're having trouble with children's protection, Winona, WINONA 1010 at blogspot.com. There is tons of information that you can use against children's protection. So just to throw that out so people comprehend how to fight for yourself and for your assets. And by the way, the lawful definition, since there is none, I don't know where the noise is coming from. The lawful definition of tax protester is one who questions the law to protect his assets.
Yeah, from what I gather, the protest is actually the correct action to be taking if you're disputing a tax. That's what you do. You file a protest.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how they turned that into a bad word.
Oh, they want to make us look like we're nasty people.
Yes.
Which is what they're always good at. I mean, isn't that what television does when they're look when somebody gets arrested? Do you ever hear the guy who got arrested side of the story? Oh, you only hear what the TV and the courts and the prosecutor want you to hear. This guy did this. This guy did this. This guy did this. Anybody ever say, "Oh, I got framed"? I got drug into this jurisdiction under false and fraudulent pretense. No, you never hear that from the news media because they're all protecting the crooks.
You know, that's one of my favorites because I had a fugitive status for quite some time, and I was like, "What are you talking about? Me, the fugitive? He's the fugitive. I was traveling around in my private capacity. He forces me to stop with a fake emergency. I move over thinking he needs to get by, and I'm an emergency. and then I discover he comes in, assaults me, he's hiding in your jurisdiction behind his badge. And so when you look up the term of fugitive, it really kind of opens your eyes, as to who the fugitive is here.
Mm-hmm.
It's them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's crazy. But Mike, contact me and I'll, help you out with what I can, and it'll really help if you get that order of cancellation at some point. It's kind of a savior here, definitely. I don't know if there's any more questions.
All participants are unmuted. Q&A session is over.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and that's good.
We appreciate you coming on the show. That's very nice of you, and we enjoy people who share information. This is an educational program, and that's what it's all about. So when
Absolutely.
you have knowledge and can back it up, please come on the show and give us your story.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Joining us.
You're welcome to come back anytime you like.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You have some new stuff on your your towing service that goes and gets cars that were confiscated. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Hey, I did make a mistake. Back in 2005, that was one of my major towings. I got towed, and within 3 hours, I repossessed my car from the towing yard. And it was pretty funny because I was familiar with a piece of code, which is 4022 in California, which basically says a repossessor does not have to have a license or something, or registration. It's one of them anyway. So I was like, great, I'll just go pick it up. So I went and picked it up, and I get there, and I'm like, I'm here to repossess the car. And she says, do you have your, and I go, my what? She goes, your repo order and your hold harmless. And I slap my pockets and I say, oh, I must have left them at the office. I'll be right back. So I came home, got online, found out what they were, wrote them up, and I started a company called irepo.com. And then I went back repossessed my car, and literally within 3 hours of it being towed, I was doing victory laps around the police department, thumbing my nose at the cameras, which was not a good idea, because next time they were really shitty.
I love your fortitude.
Yeah, I don't recommend that to anybody, but I couldn't help it.
Oh, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been really nice talking to you, and I will definitely come again. Thank you very much for having me.
Good. We appreciate you being on the show. Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye.
Well, Ed, what an exciting night.
Oh, yes. It's been
a
nice night. It's been very educational. And this is the whole point of putting it together. We got some things that we have to put together for our templates. We'll get those things set up and out. We'll be working with her on these other structure, too. And so we start putting all this together. We'll put a list together eventually with insurance companies that have basically the rights to travel. Mm-hmm. We could do that. We'll be working on that to put that together so that way people have that. And that is the one point that, we get it in the right insurance. Because I know, it's interesting, she brought it with AAA, and I used to have AAA, and I used to call it traveler's insurance. So, and then she's telling me that that's where I couldn't find it because I changed it. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, and I do recommend in the sense that we do carry basic insurance on traveling, so that way if you do hit somebody, you're covered for them. You're not covered for your vehicle unless you put that in your insurance policy. But me and Dave will work on this week. We'll come up with some solutions. We'll get this out. So this way next week we could have some things brought up. I am working on House Resolution 192 to file that with the utility companies. I'm basically almost done with it. But I have to go back and proof it, and then I got to send it to a couple other people. We're going to proof it to make sure that we've got all the I's dotted and the T's crossed before we get that out. Because we want to make sure that when we are doing this stuff and we are claiming our rights back, all right, we want to make sure that we do it so that way it's not a conflict of interest, so these people don't try to come after us on stupidity. That way we're protecting ourselves. And that is the main thing, that we have to protect ourselves and we have to protect our children in that structure of the bloodline. So, anyhow, anybody got any other questions or anything that they would like to add at this point?
Is everybody unmuted?
No, everybody's unmuted.
Oh, okay. So if you have a question, speak up. We are going to be making some changes on the show. Ed and I and the producers are going to get together and run over some things to try to make this a more what do I want to say here? More accessible show, and one that can be replayed on a regular basis to anyone who misses it. So when we get all that done, we'd like to get an 800 number up and running. So if any of you would like to contribute to that, we will let you know where to send that money. Because Ed and I do not want to take your money under any circumstances. We do not want to have a conflict of interest. So if any of our listening audience, you can start putting in a kitty on a monthly basis, and we will get you where you can go to pay for the Watts line. Which will benefit everyone. We can get more people in and hear the show and what we have to say. Like we said, they wrote it, and we expose it. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, I think we had a really, really good talk on that right to travel stuff. And the money situation, the counterfeiting ring, how can you pay debt with debt? It may be legal tender, which is British law, but it don't pay it according to HJR 192. So anyway, you need to do your research, people, and comprehend what the Bankruptcy Act of 1933 was all about. The National Banking Act, conceived on Jekyll Island, not the halls of Congress, so it's a private banking bill. It was passed as legislation after, I think, 80 or 90% of the Congress had gone home for the Christmas holidays. So it is a private banking bill. It is not a law statute codification. So your banks are not enforcement agencies, are corporations. And they're not allowed to own land whatsoever, I should say. So you got anything to add, Ed?
No, actually, I think we might make a little short night of it tonight.
That'd be for a change. People can get to bed at a regular hour.
Got it.
The lawsuit that I will be putting in against the Internal Revenue Service, an unregistered foreign agency. So we'll see how this paperwork goes. The three of us are working analyzing it so I can get it into court. So that should be up and running hopefully by next week. Been long enough, good Lord. So we're going after the IRS and $1 billion and change for due process violation and counterfeiting financial documents, identity theft, misuse of a Social Security number, criminal charges. So this should get very, very interesting. I guess, Ed, with that, if we don't have anything further to discuss tonight, I will just say good night and turn it over to you.
Okay, and I'll be doing the same thing. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We would like to clarify that you're adults. You are responsible for your actions. Okay, we are not attorneys. We're not lawyers. We are just men and women that are bringing educational knowledge of what we have been through.
Congratulations. You made the right...
Hello? Somebody say something?
Yeah, they did, but I didn't catch it.
I didn't catch it either.
It was your brother, Dave.
Oh, what did he have to say?
I think he's watching TV.
Sorry.
Did he fall asleep again?
Hey, guys, I'm sorry about that. The computer came on.
It's been so long since I saw you. How are you?
Oh, yeah, right.
I was out to his place for Father's Day, so he's a good guy. He's learning.
He's realizing you're not so nutty, are you?
Right.
So we had a good time at the dealership Saturday, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
I hope those guys were on the show tonight. They said they were going to be. Oh, but yeah, we enlightened some people Saturday. Yeah. So anyway, it's always good to talk to you, girl.
Okay.
Anyway, Ed, you can go ahead and sign off, and we'll call her it for a night.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be bringing some of this stuff up again next Monday night to clarify a few issues. I should have publicized 192 on sites coming up, so that way people can see that. You know, so this way you can sit there and read it, and make your own decisions. Once I get that thing done, I will be filing it with the UCC's, the Federal Trade Commission, and everybody on that. We'll put in a structure for autographs, so if you want to print out yours, you could use the same form that basically I'm doing a template for. Dave and I will have out, and you can send that in to your own electricity company and stuff. Say, this is one point that, your gas company, your phone bill, because see, we've already got it, and and stay away from the 1099 forms. Okay, people use those 1099 forms and want to write stuff off. That's federal fraud. Stay away from a lot of these forms, and when people try to get you in on your birth certificate, bonds, and all this to put this information out. Because under Title 42, 408, Section D, you fill out certain part of those paperwork for the IRS. That's called identity theft even to them. And you have a right to have your identity and your Social Security card. And everybody says, oh, we're going to turn it in, we're going to burn it up. Social Security is a private contract. It is not a government agency. Please do the real research before you make some of these decisions that people get talked into. They do this stuff and react. See, I filed on my stuff. I own me. And that's the one point that got them upset, because I filed and claimed myself. Claim yourself. Own you. I mean, I'll eventually get some of the other templates on that one, but there are templates up on the internet, too, on this. But make sure that you really do the research and think about things before you go off on the deep end. And we'll be working on getting the templates up for the insurance companies and stuff like this that do cover travelers, so we can start putting this stuff together, because we are getting more knowledgeable ourselves. And by doing all this stuff, we're protecting each other, and that is the whole point. We're supposed to protect each other, and like you heard from Jackie, she's even got a structure with her own children on that, and so we'll be working more on things with her to get public and to make sure it's publicly known, because that's the whole point. And the other point I didn't bring up, there's another gentleman that we was talking to over in Arkansas. Apparently in the county courts over there, they're putting real flags in there, and they're getting rid of the gold fringe flags. So some of the filings that people have been doing on these courts, the courts are paying attention, and like I said, you have to know your rights when you go in and talk to these public servants. Remember, they're public servants, and remember, they're there to serve. And don't be rude to them. Just learn how to do it. We'll have the structure for, I got the template. We'll have that up on the site here pretty soon on your clerks. So it's not to get an argument with them. They don't like to do it, just file it, and you'll have the link so you can file it with the feds. And once you file it with the feds, it's out of your hands, and they have to do what they have to do with the clerks.
Ed, if I'm
it is all about real education of one another, and that's the point that me and Dave are bringing to this, and our engineers, because we have to educate ourselves, and if we don't do that, there is no future.
If I may.
True.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
You had contacted me, I think it was a few nights ago, about something about the state senate here in Oregon claiming they own us.
Oh, yeah. Kate Brown is trying to put this structure in to actually claim all your assets and you as a vital point. And so, like, when you go in for a driver's license ID and they ask you for your birth certificate, they're writing it off, so you have to get a new number so they can restart you over. Do not do that at all. Do not give your livelihood over to any public servants. Remember, very few times do you run into an honorable one. We want to start honoring the honorable ones. And the ones who are not honorable, we want to make sure that we get criminal charges on them and they go to prison.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
And yes, they are doing this across the country. They are realizing that people are waking up. And they see, it's like the people don't comprehend. The national debt is not we owe them. It's the British government owes us. The British government was the Corporation of United States, Inc. That was filed in 1871, revised in 1925. So it's United States Inc. And remember, that's under the attorneys, lawyers, judges, and that structure, and they're claiming our assets for them.
Nope. Wrong.
You know, we're gonna be getting more of our templates and stuff up on the site. I do have them. We do have tax fraud in America. Look it up on your tax structure. We have the United States for America Republic elected and public servants oversights. We do have the Civil War 1866 lawful bloodline Americans. And we do have new.Oregon trackers on Facebook, and we do have templates on them. We do even have the structure on that, what we did and served Judge Scalia on the lawful and legal difference, and you do that, and you autograph that if you're a legal immigrant. So long as you comply with the Constitution and the structure of this law, they can't mess with you. You've already signed it, you autograph it, you serve it to the Federal Supreme Court, to Justice Roberts, and you make sure they get it, and you make sure you get it stamped and returned. And that is the point. That's how you protect yourself. If you're illegal, but, you know, and there's no amnesty on immigration. Either you do it right or you're not welcomed in our country.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not here to feed your kids, your grandchildren. The oceans are dying right now. The food is becoming very scarce in this country as well as worldwide. When you think about the food dying, the trees being cut, the wildlife is, you know, very skimp when you go out hunting today and food gathering. And I do recommend you start doing gardens, collecting rainwater, you know, and deregulate yourself as what they call a citizen. You know, and those things are up on sites, but don't give up giving up your rights on the other side. Do the investigation, research it, so that way you don't get caught up in a conflict of interest or being accused of falsifying documents or instruments. And you do everything when you do it, you have to do it in an affidavit form, because when you go to a court, the judge will ask you, a good judge will ask you, did you file your affidavit? So, with that, if anybody's got any other comments, then I would like to, I'll give a second here. Anybody got any further comments they would like to add tonight?
Well, just one thing on the affidavit. There's 5 points to the affidavit. It's also on all of our New Oregon trackers, Civil War, all that. So you should be able to find those 5 points. And you do not necessarily have to have it notarized. You can do a blood ink or a blood signature or a red ink signature on it, as long as your thumbprint is there. So, with that in mind, that should cover the affidavit part of it.
And also to show respect for one another when we're doing this and converting with other people, and when you become contacting with other people, remember, show your kindness and your honesty with that structure as well, because the only way we're going to continue this by being honorable is that people are comprehending and paying attention to what's
responsibility. Not up to speed.
I can barely hear you again, Dave. You're talking away from the phone.
Okay, so remember also that not everyone is up to speed on what we have been talking about. So be patient with people. Don't brush them off as incompetent. Most people don't comprehend the fact that, gee, they've been at this for decades. So be patient. Teach each other, and you will do better in life.
So, I guess with that, we'll be saying goodnight, and you all have a blessed evening. Travel safe, and may the Great Spirit and the Lord be with you, or the Great Spirit, as I say, and Mother Nature be with you. You know, and without the Creator, none of us would have anything.
It's true. Remember, God made us sovereign. The government didn't. The no line.
Black ink on white paper has no blood.
Thus no authority.
So,
Good night.
Good night, folks. Travel safe.
You have been listening to Disclaimers by Davidlee buess and Edward Johnston. It is currently 7:18 on the West Coast, and thank you very much.
This session is no longer being recorded.
Anybody there?
Quiet. Yeah, I'm still here. Oh, David?
Yeah.
Could you, I sent you the thing on Facebook. I'm not sure if you saw it. Could you send me a copy of that paper that you were talking about earlier tonight?
Which one's that?
The one about when the police pull you over.
The right to kill an officer? Or the right to travel?
The right to travel.
Actually, you can Google that on the internet. Just put right to travel, and it'll take you right to the website. And then you can print it. Cut, copy, and paste and print it. Then you can carry it with you. That's how I got mine.
Oh, really?
Hmm? If you have a problem, do you have my phone number?
No, sir.
Area code 419-694-5796. Do you have a fax machine?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, so do I. My fax is the same 694, only it's 1018. So I can fax you my copy of Right to Travel, if you would rather have me do that to you. I will tell you it's 18 pages long.
Oh, that's fine. I'll give him something to read.
You'll enjoy it, too. Okay. Anything else?
No, sir. I'm good.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show and you learned some things. That's what we try to do, is educate people. We don't force anything on them. We put it out there and it lands where it lands. So.
I do have one other question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Ed said something about y'all are filing something with the UCC and something about a 1090.